Peace, love, and everything in between, loved ones. So, this is just a calm, cool conversation because I want to finally talk about Sinners. So, if you haven't seen it, I'm sorry, but we going to finally break it down scene by scene. I took notes. First, I really wanted to do this video because I feel like as someone who wasn't raised in African spirituality and someone who was not taught a lot of things that the movie kind of touched on, I can understand why some people thought the movie was not good or they didn't understand the movie. Kind of the same way that people didn't like the Kendrick Lamar halftime performance this year. The message seems to be going over some of our heads because we simply weren't taught. So of course, if we was never taught something, when we're faced with something that's not gonna make no sense, duh, I don't know what you're talking about. I never seen it, right? So, but I just want to give Mr. Ryan Coogler his kudos and his coins because Sinners was the biggest original movie since inception in terms of domestic box office. The film debuted with 48 million. The film has earned over 275 million in North America, and Sinners has surpassed 361 million globally. So to say the movie wasn't good, the numbers don't lie. So let's kind of dive into the movie, right? First of all, the movie started with the people, Sammy coming up, um, coming from a journey, some type of journey, right? To the people in the church all dressed in white. Now, first of all, Ryan Coogler started the movie off with a bang because why you got our people praising in the house all dressed in white? If we understand our African spiritual roots, we can understand the significance of wearing white on certain days. And if we just quick Google, we'd see why that was a big thing that he did in the beginning scene of the movie. So that was number one that I noticed. I don't know if anyone else noticed that, but it wasn't just like, they just wearing white for no reason. I'm sure my churchgoers could break that down better for me than I can. Let's talk about it. So then, they talked about how the gift of music can conjure souls from past, present, and future. So, um, basically, that's the whole thing of music, right? Like, if we actually research the history of music and how we use different tones and different vibrations to manipulate certain cells in our body, like it actually grows crazy. So Sammy's gift, he had the gift of music. He can conjure, souls from past, present through his gift of music, through his singing. So the fact that they related the Indians in the beginning, the Choctaw and the Irish Philly, and all the different types of things that these people are called, that was amazing. Like, we're literally getting a history lesson that we didn't ask for. And I feel like Ryan Coogler did a good job of sprinkling it in and giving us some modern stuff because it really was just a history lesson and he just created a hell of a good story out of it. And the reason and the significance of using a vampire, the symbolism between that all in itself, because what do we know vampires to be? I know vampires to be parasitic, vampires to be leeches, vampires to be bloodsuckers, right? So to say that vampires are literally attacking black people and trying to suck Sammy's soul, right? And trying to take Sammy's energy and Sammy's gift. What was his name? Remick was the vampire. He literally said, "Give me Sammy." Like, this literally signifies how certain people have blood sucked the culture. The culture meaning black culture, right? So that was pretty significant to me. I like how the pastor knew the power in Sammy's guitar, and he was like, "Put down the guitar." But it's also the hypocrisy in the pastor saying to put down the guitar in the beginning, when he was like, "You're gonna go down there with them people sweating and gyre or whatever," like trying to basically saying that he playing the devil's music and it brings out whatever and people gonna be sweaty or whatever. But in church, people do the same thing. So why is it so bad when people are letting loose, and worshiping or relaxing in their way, but on Sundays when you go to church and we catch the Holy Ghost or we catch the Holy Spirit and we in church shouting, or we see people, using the music and they're sweating and moving their bodies, that kind of is the same thing. So it's kind of hypocritical, and I like how Ryan Coogler kind of showcased that. I'm not sure if anybody else made that connection, but definitely for me, when the twins Smoke and Stack was explaining to Sammy when he asked in the car ride how was Chicago, because they had just came down from Chicago, and I like how Smoke and Stack explained how back in the 20s Chicago was just a plantation with bigger cities. It was just an industrialized plantation. Like, I like how Ryan Coogler, we always talk about the Great Migration and how all the slaves migrated to the North, but we never talk about what the North actually was. It was literally a different slave master, or like same slave master, different plantation. So we went from the South plantation to the North factories, and we still being hung and lynched and discriminated against, and nothing's changed. So I love how Ryan Coogler highlighted that as well. And this is still just the beginning of the movie. Like, I think this is like maybe like the first 30 minutes or so. I like how Ryan Coogler showcased the relationship between twins and between Smoke and Stack. How one was more of like the charismatic, friendly, people smiling twin, and then you had the other twin that was about his business. He was more so militant and stern, the protector, if you will. I like how Stacks was the roller, right? And of course Smoke was the smoker, but he always had his roller with him, right? So just kind of seeing the relationship between the twins, and actually Michael B. Jordan, like, I've never cared about Michael B. Jordan like that, but he just is a great actor, because playing yourself back to back, like, he played a twin, he played himself. And if we didn't see the interview with Ryan Coogler that he did on Breakfast Club, we should watch it, because it showcased how Ryan Coogler chose Michael B. Jordan to do this role, and some of the things he had to go through when playing this role and playing himself and playing against himself. So I thought that was interesting to highlight. Let me go back to my notes. I'm trying to keep it rolling, keep it going, because I don't want this video to be forever. You know what I'm saying? So I love in the beginning how Smoke was militant, but it showcased how men back in the day, they were protectors, but men were also like safe spaces, if you will. I love how Smoke put Baby Girl on game and taught her how to negotiate. Again, Like, he about his business, don't play with him, but he's also a safe space and he's willing to teach and learn. Like, he taught her, when I talk money, you talk money, right? He said that to her. He said, you know, if I start here, then you talk, then you go up, you tell me, you know, we go back and forth. But if I'm talking money, you talking money. So I thought that was pretty strong to showcase that. Just he got her off the side of the road, like, and gave her a job, and told her how, and gave her a life lesson that she could learn for the rest of her life, you know, that she could use. So again, just showcasing that, how black men were, you know, the safe havens for black women, for us at one point. I think I loved how it's like black men, he showcased how black men were the protectors, but he also showcased how black men set order. Like, when he shot the guy in the butt and then he shot the other guy, like, he didn't have to, he wasn't trying to kill him, but it's to make a statement, because you're not just going to try to steal from the twins and think you're going to get away. I'm not going to do nothing. Like, no, we got to have order around this motherfucker, right? So to create order, but then guess what he did? He shot him and then he patched him up. He gave him the lesson, right? So you're not going to do this shit again, because you're going to get shot. And next time it might not be just in your ass. It might be for it. But for now, I'm going to patch you up. So that was powerful for me. It also showcased how Chinese people help the black community, how they still are big parts of our community, right? But it also highlighted how Chinese and the Asian community can go back and forth between spaces. Like, it literally showed how the little black girl went from the black only side, and when they asked for the mom, she had to walk across to the whites only side. So Asians had that power. They could go in between back in that day, right? Black people, we never had that power. It was blacks and whites. And Asians were always kind of like in between, you know, in the middle, if you can, being able to go, having the privilege to be able to go back and forth, right? So going back to when they was in the car, Stack said that he would let Sammy drive back. And he was teaching him a lesson, pretty much. It's how Stack was basically teaching Sammy the way around a woman's body and teaching her what to do. Because Sammy was young, so they didn't say how old Sammy was, or I didn't catch it if anybody else did, but we can infer he's young because his older cousin is putting him on game and telling him how to please a woman, essentially, because he's younger. So just by Sammy's voice, I like that they casted this guy, because it showcased how Sammy has like an old soul, and he has like that old deep voice. But he's clearly young, right? Like, he's young, like a little lion cub, but you can tell he's old spirited. He has like an ancestral voice for people who understand that aspect of it. I like how when they was at the rail yard, it showed the relationship between generations, right? So it showed how Stack respected Delta Slim, but it also showed how Stack put Delta Slim in his place when Delta Slim threatened Sammy. Because if we remember in the movie, if I remember correctly, Sammy was about to play because he was all excited. He with Delta Slim, and Delta Slim was like, "Oh, put that there! Don't you play around here? This is my section." And Stack checked them, like, "You threaten him again, old man, it's gonna be problems, but you know, respect though." But again, that's just the throughout the generations, how we were supposed to check each other, how we need each other, right? To keep each other in line. That's how I took it. So Delta Slim, you know, he kind of taught a lesson there too, because, you know, they introducing this new money, this new blood, this new this new opportunity, but he basically saying, you know, this, you saying this opportunity, you paying this much tonight, but this place that I've been at for this long is going to be paying this much forever, till I'm gone, till you gone, they're going to be here. So do you, it's like teaching the lesson of, do you stick with the devil you know, or the devil that you don't know, right? So basically Stack tempted him with alcohol. Clearly Delta Slim had an alcohol problem. He tilted him with alcohol and gave him like a taste of freedom, because it was something that he never tasted before. It was something that he never got to enjoy before. So of course that one sip of difference, that one sip, that's all it takes, is one sip to get you to get you off your square, right? So it was also interesting how Stack told Sammy to look down when he saw that the white woman was looking at them, right? Because in 1932, black men couldn't look at white women. Like Emmett Till, like you would get, like our men were being murdered just for, they didn't even have to be looking at the woman. They could be looking in the direction. Like, and our men were being castrated and lynched and murdered like it was nothing in the 1930s. So the significance of Stack telling Sammy to put his head down, I don't know if, tell me if we caught that. So then when they were on the car ride going to the location with Delta Slim, Sammy, and Stack, they rode past a chain gang singing, right? And Delta Slim shared his own trauma that was so overwhelming that he started humming and singing, and because he felt it in his spirit, because that's how we connect. Music is how we transmit energy, right? Our ancestors know this, knew this, it's been passed on. It's been taken from us, and we may not understand the power of it now because it's been taken from us. But the fact that Ryan Coogler highlighted this, Ryan Coogler did his big one. I'm trying to tell y'all, no wonder why it sold 361 million, because he told the truth. He gave us history, but like he didn't tell it like in a boring way. He gave us the horror aspect to it. He gave us entertainment in a storyline with the history. He didn't like sugarcoat it and call it something else. Like they wasn't in the movie. Like I feel like these days people always like the sugarcoat shit. Like we like to make up words so we don't have to hurt people's feelings in order to save face, instead of just calling shit what it is. I like that Ryan Coogler called shit what it was. It was Jim Crow, goddammit. They was lynching people, goddammit. They was taking people manhood, goddammit. Like, it was segregated. We don't need to make up words and make it try to seem nice and like something that it was. It's not nice, it's not mean, it's not good, it's not bad. It's just what it is. And I feel like we in history have to understand that history is not there for us to like or dislike. History is there for us to learn from, period. And Ryan Coogler did an amazing job at giving us entertainment with history. So the fact that the humming and the singing and the ancestral connection is how the blues actually started, if we dig into the history of it, for people who study music, I would love to tap in with y'all. But Delta Slim spoke about how white people love the blues, but they don't like the people that sing it, right? It's the same thing that they always want our rhythm, but they don't never want our blues, right? Blues is very ancestral, like I said. I've learned in my research. We learned why Delta Slim was an alcoholic. They killed and castrated his best friend. So that's why he uses alcohol to cope, essentially. So that scene in the car ride was very powerful with the three men, 3 generations. So then we saw Annie. We meet Annie, who's a root worker. She was dealing with smoke. She lost a baby with smoke, right? We could see that she was a root warrior. She had her mojo bag. You know, she was very much so into another realm of things that actually exists. Like, it's crazy that this movie came out when it did, because not too long ago, I just got into understanding what mojo bags are for and what they can be used for. So that was powerful in itself. Then we go to Remick, the Irishman, the vampire, right? Let's just, when he saw them robes, that KKK robe, he knew he was safe. He knew he was safe. He knew what he had to say to get him in the door. It didn't matter that he was Irish. He had white skin. He saw the KKK mask. He's safe. The Indians, they coming to get me. Let me in, right? And it's crazy because the Indian came up to the house unafraid with the gun in his face. The white woman had the gun in his face, and he came up like, "What's up? I got my gang behind me. You got guns. We got guns. Ain't nobody scared. We all got guns. Anyway, ma'am, there may be somebody here to harm you." And for me, this is powerful because in history, we have learned that the Indian people, Black people, and just people of color, period, have always been very welcoming, loving people and helpful people. Yet we always get met with this anger and hostility, right? Like, the Indian guy literally went there to help her ass, and her racist ass got a gun in his face. And he the enemy, but you got a whole goddamn vampire in your house. Okay? So, again, Ryan Coogler, magnifique, man. So, the fact that he tried to warn her, and, you know, and she still did what she did. But some people I was talking to some people, and they was like, well, the Indians just left, they just rode off. And that's like kind of their job. Like, they was like, the sun's going down, she clearly don't want to let us in, she don't want our help, we did our part, we going to get the hell on. What person would stick around for the bullshit? I told you what it was. You decided that you wanted to tangle with the devil. I'm gonna let your ass dance. Have a nice night. Deuces. I would leave too. The fuck? So again, back to the whole vampire. Historically, they're bloodsuckers. They suck the culture. They suck the life out of things, right? They leech off of the host. And again, the fact that Ryan Coogler chose vampires to showcase this, magnifique. The history of when they were in the bar, the wooden nickels. Like, I actually had to do more research on this because I didn't know, or I wasn't taught the history of wooden nickels. So that was significant that Ryan Coogler showcased that little piece. Like, that little piece. Like, if we go back and just Google what wooden nickels were back in the 30s and 20s, things we had to use to trade for monetary value because we didn't have money. But yeah, again, it showed how Smoke was more disciplined and he knew business when the guy was trying to play with the wooden nickels and he was like, no, we taking cash. Like, that's all, that's it. And everybody was like, no, well, they had a hard week and, you know, they done worked all week and they can't let loose, and we get all that, but still, we got to make money too, right? That's fair. So then we met Mary from the train station who came back, the mulatto. We saw how she was accepted in white and Black spaces. So I like how Ryan Coogler highlighted, because he represented them too. Back then, we know it from history that fair-skinned Black women would pass as white women and would get married to white men to have a better life. Like, this is historical facts that, again, he's giving us with ice cream to ease it, but this is like our history. So it made it known how easy it was for the entire black community to get infected because they had Mary who could go back and forth, right? Had we just stuck with our own and not let any black people in, because in the beginning, Smoking Stack said if we see any crackers cross our property line, they did, right? But because she was accepted in black and white spaces, she was allowed in. And because of her privilege that she thought she had, that's why she was the demise of the whole fucking movie. Had she not been there, wink wink, if we look back in history, had she not been there, had certain people not been in place, certain things would have never happened. But that's another story for another time. She went to so I love how Delta Slim invited Sammy up on stage to perform, right? And that's when all the magic happened, when we saw all the humming and the stomping and the singing, and then we started seeing the scenes and the timeline. Literally, he gave us African dancers, he gave us Asian culture, he gave us twerking, he gave us 80s hip hop dance, he gave us, like, he literally gave us a time loop, a real time loop, like where we are now in life, from, and looped it around. Like, that was the when I saw he did that, the guitarist, the African ritual dancers, like I said, like, oh my God, like, he literally looped it all in. And then when the vampires saw the magic that was coming, the energy that was coming from that building that was burned down, but it wasn't really burned down, it was just the symbolism of the energy, right? So when he saw that, of course, he wanted it for himself, right? Remick wanted to conjure his people by using Sammy's voice. He literally said, I want to see my people too. And Remick always, like, even when they first came up to the bar, you know, he was always about, oh, well, we and love, and it's always us, right? But it's crazy how it's always we and us, but when they was being hung from trees in the 30s and shit, where was that at? When you got to use your white privilege to get saved from the Indians, black people don't get to do that. So so we see like the disproportion. So it can't be you and us and we and united, because it was never equal to begin with. And we have to come to the realization of that. And I feel like the movie puts it right in our face, literally, for those who are paying attention. Like, the game is literally free. You just gotta pay attention, man. But yeah, the relationship. I like how Ryan Coogler showed the real relationship and insecurities we had as women when Sammy wanted to go down on Paulette. And she was like, no, I had to walk here. And I could just, and it's crazy because in the black community, we do not talk about sex. We do not talk about sex. I don't know why, because we're the highest in teen pregnancy. We're not leading in STDs, but goddamn, we up there. So the fact that we're not talking about sex makes no sense. The fact that I didn't know what an orgasm was until I was in my 30s makes no sense. Like, why are we not talking about it? Like, I get, like, not being weird and like but educational, we have to start talking about it, right? So I could just really feel this scene when Paulette said, no, I had to walk here. And, you know, she was like insecure. She didn't want to have sex or be eaten out by Sammy, who didn't care. And they said first thing she said was, She said, she said, let me wash up first. That's what she said. She's like, let me wash up first. She said, I walked here. Let me wash up first. And how many of us women have been like, let me wash up first before we have, because we done worked all day. He wanted, he hot, he wanted right now. But we just feel so like uncomfortable, And Sammy said, you're beautiful. He said, you beautiful, and got in that pussy. You hear me? Had us screaming, had a smoking stack outside the door, listening to the old girl get her life worked in. And that's all it takes, right? We need each other. Like, so what you sweaty? When you really fuck with somebody, you really love somebody, like, all that shit don't matter. Like, when you really want to please someone. And I think that's what we have to talk about. The act of really pleasing someone. I think if we could start talking about that, then we could stop having like pointless sex and, really make a difference. But anyway, so the fact I kind of touched on how Remick was talking about how he believed in music and equality. He said that he wanted to be family for one night and play his banjo, and Stax wanted to let the whites in because he wanted their money. Because he said, they came in peace. They just want to spend money. Why not let them in, right? And this is significant because, again, this is how it always happens. One of us is always like, oh, well, they don't mean no harm. Just let them in. It's okay. They just want to play music and have a good time. Just let them in. And that's why we are where the fuck we are now as Black people, right? So, I like how Smoke was the militant one, and was like, yeah, they come in peace. They want to come here and just have fun. But what if somebody looking at his woman too long? Or what if somebody step on his shoe and then it's a problem? So no, we can't just let them in because there's too many consequences that could happen. I like that he did that, because had somebody did that for us, a few decades ago, again, we wouldn't be here where we are now, and that's the significance of it. And I feel like a lot of people are missing these lessons, and I get why we're missing it, because I wasn't taught. And it's not anyone's fault why I wasn't taught. We are in survival mode. My mom was working. She didn't have time to teach me this shit. She was trying to survive, put food on the table, make it manageable, because she had a mom who didn't give her anything, who came from another mom who grew up when they was lynching people and they had to march for freedom. So of course love wasn't passed down, right? Knowledge wasn't passed down, but you know what was? Survival was. So again, we have to look at where we are now and really look at the point and the symbolism behind the movie. So I like how Ryan Coogler highlighted how people who try to ride the fence are gonna get their karma. Because at one point, we are all going to have to pick a side and stay there. I like how Mary thought her white privilege was going to say, like, she thought she could go out and get some answers, get their money, see how much money they had. And because she was trained by Stack, she thought she could handle it. But little did she know, sweetheart, your white privilege didn't get you nowhere but bitten your goddamn back, and now you done infected everybody fucking else. So that was significant, because she was the first victim. And again, she infected everyone. So Black people or fair-skinned people who don't want to accept their Blackness and who ride the fence and who still want to be in white spaces, guess what? That's why your ass got bit. If you want to be Black, you got to stay Black. And it's funny how Mary kept saying she wanted to be with him so bad, and Stat kept saying, well, I sent you to have a better life with the white man. And she was saying, no, I want to be with you. I don't want to be a white woman. I want to be a Black woman with you. And I mean, look at Michael B. Jordan. Could you blame her? So then, again, this is just familiar. She infected everybody. Again, that's just how it go. I like how Ryan Coogler showcased Irish folklore and how they have their own music and their own culture. I love when Pauline started singing, and it was like that classic juke photo. Excuse me, they had it like in Martin. It was like in a few black sitcoms from back in the day, like Fresh Prince, Martin, a few. But that classic juke photo with the woman singing, like Ryan Coogler really did his bit. Like, oh my god! But when she started stomping, like how powerful that energy is. Like, I could imagine being in the 1930s and the energy like that and a presence like that and just feeling liberated. Like, instead of being in a time now where we go out to the club and everybody's just on their phone, disconnected, we're not even talking to each other, not even looking at each other, but that's just what I think about. But anyway, so moving along. I like how the women knew their place when the men started beating that man who had the loaded dice. And I like how they all looked away in unison. Like, women stayed in women's places. We wasn't trying to get in men's business. We wasn't trying to see who was fighting who or what was doing what. We let men do what men do, right? So that was beautiful. I like how Ryan Coogler showed how Asians always stick to their own. It showed how they'll come and they'll help and they'll make their money, but when the going get tough, they peace out and they ready to get back to their own. I like how, again, Ryan Coogler showed how they go back and forth. They got the privilege to go back and forth. Again, a privilege that we do not have. And that's not to say a bad thing, right? Because you're supposed to look out for your own. You're supposed to have your best interest at home. Black people are the only race group of people who don't look out for their own. Who, when the going don't even got to get tough. We already out. Like, we don't even want to do it if it's us. If it's a black owned business, no, we rather go support a major white company who stole the ideas from a black owned business. Like, it makes no sense. But yeah. I liked that Annie knew Cornbread had to be invited in. She knew just from her knowledge and wisdom that was passed on to her that he had to be invited in. The fact that he was acting funny like that and was asking to be invited in was kind of just, her being on her root worker, her knowledgeable self. It's always good to know. You always got to have one in the pocket, right? I like how they mentioned that Jim Crow in lynching. I kind of touched on that already. I like how Ryan Coogler had Delta Slim sacrifice himself for the youth. He sacrificed himself for the youth. He taught his lessons and he sacrificed himself for the youth. Like, that was huge. That's how it should be. That's like the circle of life. The sacred circle, when Remick was doing his cultural ancestral dance, and first of all, he went off like he went off. Like, and it was beautiful seeing, their culture, because they do have their own culture and their own dances in their native tongue, right? He was getting it when he did his two-step, him being in the middle, like, connected him to everything in his culture, right? So in African culture, that's our dancing circles. So everything comes from Africa, right? So the African dancing circles is how we conjure. So if we even just talk to any of our African brothers and sisters, or even just Google it, right? African dancing circles. That's why that scene was so powerful. And the fact that Remick was in the middle, white man, Irish man, surrounded by black people in their energy, that right there was a powerful statement in itself, because he was literally taking the energy from everyone and he had everyone linked, right? Like Annie said, if you killed the original one, it would unlink them, but it wouldn't unleash them from the curse of being a vampire. So it was crazy that Remick wanted to be our savior and he can help us and deliver us and the KKK and we've been done so wrong and he's the answer, but yet he wants to use us the same way. Like he don't want us, like he don't want to take us on our own free will. He's trying to get this shit by any means. He out here infecting people, goddamn it. He not giving people no choice, but he's supposed to be better. So again, this shows different plantation, same slave master, which is exactly what the twins said in the beginning of the movie. So if we keep going, it showed how the power of motherhood is more powerful than anything, right? Because all Remick had to do was pry on her motherly nature to get what he wanted, and that's what snapped. So some people were saying like Grace went hard because she invited him in, and some people say she was dumb because she invited him in. I would say from a militant standpoint, you outnumbered. That's absolutely like not smart. But for movie's sake, you know, time wise, you got to get it going. So something got to happen. So that was clearly like the climax or whatever. So Remick said he trapped someone and he wanted to talk to his ancestors. That was the whole point. Again, I already kind of touched on that. And again, I took notes because I saw the movie twice and it was just that good. He said he wanted Sammy. We all knew he wanted Sammy. He wanted Sammy to talk to his ancestors. Again, that was the point of the whole movie. Remick had control of everyone's mind. That's why he wanted to bite and infect Sammy so that way he could control his mind to speak to his ancestors when Sammy would use his gift of music, his ancestral gift to conjure for him. And it's crazy because Remick had control of everyone's mind. So it kind of shows again where we are now with how all of our minds are being controlled. So at the end, we saw how Hogwood set Smoke and Stack up from the beginning, and they were basically just taking Black people's money and murdering them after they did it. And this was very common in the South. Black people would, you know, work and try to buy things and try to buy land. And when they did, they would give the money to white people, like in the movie, and then they would be murdered. So their money would be stolen. And this was a cycle that they had been doing clearly. That's what Remick said. That the nephew and his wife had been killing the Black people for years and stealing their money. So it showed how emotional women were, how we're emotional warriors. Like I said, when Grace let them in, especially when our children are threatened, we're not logical thinkers. So that's again why I said from a militant standpoint, it was not smart for Grace to invite them all in. However, I see for the time's sake of the movie why it had to happen. I saw how Grace tried to rouse Smoke to get him amped up to try to fight by calling him a soldier and try to manipulate his thoughts based on her emotional logic. And again, that's kind of like what we women do already. We are very emotional and we tend to use our emotions to manipulate men. And I like how, again, Ryan Coogler showcased that. Grace got everybody killed. Period. And it's crazy that Annie said not you. Like, of course it would be Stacks that bit her, right? And that kind of showed how it be your own kind. Like, for me, that was the significance of that. Like, it be your own kind. Like, the people that you would least expect, the people that look like you, you know, how they say all skin folk ain't kinfolk. Like, that's where we are in today's age. Like, the people who care about Black empowerment need to separate from those who don't. And that's why that scene was significant when Annie said, not you, in quotes. And then Annie died. We already talked about how Delta Slim sacrificed himself. Had he never been there, though, I do want to note, he wouldn't have had to sacrifice himself. So again, it's like going with the devil you don't know. Had he not been there, he would have been good singing alive. But because he decided to fuck with Smoke and Stack for one night, he lost his life, unfortunately. Um, yeah, had Mary not been invited in, again, none of this would have happened. So again, this movie was just very significant the way that Ryan Coogler mixed in African spirituality and history and our ancestral connections. I feel like he really did a beautiful job, especially at the end when we saw Smoke trying to roll his cigarette without Stack because Stack was his roller, right? So the fact that he was so shaky and he could barely roll it, but then he took off his mojo bag, and if you remember, the mojo bag was for protection. He took off the mojo bag, so we already knew that something was going to happen, right? So although Smoke kind of sacrificed himself, he literally stopped, like him taking that stance and taking them all out, stopped the generational curse of black people being lured there, their money stolen and being murdered. So he saved countless blacks, you know. So yeah. When at the end when Smoke took the ancestral walk, I had to learn about this. I'm still learning it. I'm still very much new into my own personal spiritual journey. So I know a little bit about a little bit. So the fact that he took a spiritual walk and he was like in the fine line, because they say the veil between the ethers is very thin, right? But it's only so much that we can see with the human eye. But you know, there are a lot of things that are naked to the human eye. So the fact that he was able to see these things and see his baby and Annie, who had crossed over, and that's why she didn't want to become a vampire, because she had her baby waiting for her. The fact that he saw her dressed in white, again, back to the white, that was significant. And then the fact that Hogwood, you know, brought him back, and you know he had to zap out of it and take care and kill Hogwood, you know. But yeah, so that's what I got from the movie. There were a lot more things, like in the end credits. I didn't see it the first time I watched it, but the second time I watched it, I saw how Stax and Mary came back and they had to be invited in to Sammy's dressing room. And I also didn't catch that Sammy's club was called Pauline's, the woman that he ate out that night. So for me, like the fact that Smoke left him alive, and then just think about the experiences that he went through, because he's still Michael B. Jordan young in like the 1980s. He had on the Coogee sweater, and then Mary had on her 80s get up, you know. So the fact that they were able to bring it full circle to show where we are now was just crazy. Again, Ryan Coogler, for me, did an amazing job. I see why this movie was number one, and it grossed as much as it did. I see why it's the best original film, because if we think about films these days, It's not a lot of original films. It's a lot of stuff being remade. Like, I'm very upset that these people remade Lilo and Stitch. Lilo and Stitch was cool as a cartoon. We did not need a real action. They didn't remade Jurassic Park 50 million times. So when they say that Sinners was the best original made film since Inception, if we know what Inception was about with Leonardo DiCaprio, if that's the movie I believe you're talking about, then we can see like the levels that it's on. So it's not just everyday horror film. It's not no Freddy vs. Jason type stuff. Like, this movie actually had meaning. Again, phenomenal job to Michael B. Jordan, to Ryan Coogler, to the entire cast. Was beautifully selected. They all did a wonderful job. Let's talk about it. I hope you all enjoyed this. I hope I was able to break it down and make it make sense. If we have any questions or want to talk more, I would love to talk about it. I want to watch the movie again. So yeah, until next time, folks, with much love and peace and everything in between.